What's up, guys? It's Zenkistyle, and we're here today to talk about, well, gunpla and priming. We apparently seem to think that we have to prime our gunpla, which, let's face it, look at this guy. You know, I wouldn't have such a problem with saying, oh, prime everything, if it wasn't for the fact that a lot of our model kits don't get built like a traditional model kit. Oh, my camera's all dirty. Let me wipe that off real quick. There we go. Let me make sure we're all still in camera. And now, the thing of it is, this right here is literally nothing but primer. But we had an issue apparently where people were getting upset over different opinions on how to paint different things. And I'm here to tell you outright, if you're just changing colors on these kits, you don't need, or excuse me, changing colors. I said the wrong thing here. If you're just recoloring this kit, like in the case of this Mark II, you just want to recolor it the same color that it was, you don't need primer. You just need a good lacquer base. Look at this. It's not magically coming off because there's no primer there. I didn't prime any of this because back in the day, I didn't have a lot of money for supplies. So I didn't have a lot of money for primer. And what winds up happening is, well, I used what I had. Now, this paint is not perfect. You can see it's not perfect. In fact, you can see right here where I did a poor job spraying. But it's not on there not being primer. It's on the fact that I did a poor job spraying or poor job cleaning up. As you can see right here, this is actually my suggestion right here in this frame piece right here. For frames, this is Tamiya's gunmetal, and as you can see, it adheres perfectly to that frame gray. No primer. There's no wear on that little bit. I have another kit here somewhere. Guys, there's a lot of ways to do this stuff, and like we'll use this kit for example because it's all dusty and nasty, but I didn't even actually, oh, there goes that Tamiya gunmetal again. But I didn't even actually use anything for this frame. I just used some weathering powders and some simple paint. None of this is primered. And look, this isn't even top coated. This is just Tamiya that's set on this kit for a while. This wasn't primered, this was just sprayed. Look at that. The only thing that's coming off is the water slide. If you're just coloring a Gundam kit the same color it was before, you really don't need primer as badly as, say, if you're taking something and gluing it together and doing a lot of sanding, doing a lot of reshaping. You're not doing reshaping here. I'm going to go over here in my bag. I got a bag full of, box full of old broken kits and parts and all sorts of stuff. We'll see what we can find here. This, no primer anywhere. You can see where it's wearing off in a few mild places. Look, look. That's the only place I can really shear it off, is right there on that V-fin. And as you can see, I'm having to dig my nail into that. If I hadn't dug my nail into that, that would still be near perfect. Now this appears to be part of an aircraft kit, and this is a perfect example of where I should have used primer. And the reason I should have used primer was because I was hand painting it, and primer helps adherence. So this is a good example of when you want to use primer. If you're hand painting something like this, you want to use primer. But if you're just recoloring this blue, well, let's face it, it's already blue. You don't need to change the color tone to make it easier to paint. In fact, you can use the same exact method I used on this body right here. It was black, and I just sprayed it black. No primer needed, because the adhesion is coming from the fact that I used a lacquer paint. I used Tamiya spray cans on this. In fact, this is why I suggest Tamiya spray cans for beginners. Let's keep going through this. This guy, as rough a shape as he is in, once again, didn't use primer. The only effects you can really see going bad, the gold. And the gold's not bad because I didn't use primer. Once again, the gold's just bad because it's the way I painted it. A lot of what primer is for checking gaps on things. This, the only place you can see where it's rubbed off is where it's been falling off the shelf 50 billion times. This has been after years of bouncing around in a box. This kit has been in a box for 3 years. 3 years. Bouncing around with other parts. Can you say I really needed primer on this? I don't see where I did. Where do you see all this magic paint chipping off? It's not. Guys, if you use lacquer paints and you're just recoloring a Gundam model kit and you're not trying to go from like, I don't know, black to red. This was blue to red. Blue to red. You know the only places where you can tell that I didn't use primer? Right there. Right there, because of discoloration. Once again, because I didn't spray it correctly. Primer is not a necessity. It is a great tool. It is great for hand painting. When you're hand painting, it's great to have a primer layer, but it's mostly because you want an adherence layer. You want traction for your paint, so your paint sticks. So, in that example, a flat clear could work as a primer. A semi-gloss clear, like a satin sheen or whatever. What is this? This is semi-gloss. Now let's see. Maybe that'll dry by the time I'm done talking. I doubt it, but maybe it'll dry by the time I'm done talking. But point being is, you want primer on this stuff to gain traction. Like this is all acrylic. Acrylic that was laid I don't know how long ago. As you can see, I'm sitting here scratching away at it. No primer. Do we get any removal here? No. Come on, guys. You ain't got to use primer for everything. You're prepping a surface with primer. And where primer primarily, look at that, some punnage going on here, comes in handy is, I'll repeat again, when you're hand painting and you need traction. When you're spraying something and you want to mask, because you need that extra adherence if you're trying to mask. For whatever reason, this paint right here will come up with masking tape if it isn't fully cured, but when it's on primer, it doesn't do that. But you give it like a week to cure, and it's going to be like, oh, and look, I just touched it. I touched it. I smeared it. It reactivated. See right there where it reactivated from spraying it with a lacquer. But look at this. I'm trying my hardest. Well, there's a little chunk already missing, so look. I'm going to scratch at that. I mean, what do I have? A piece of metal, maybe? Look, it takes a piece of metal. A piece of metal, guys, to get this paint to scratch off of here. I actually have to physically try to scratch this paint off. Let's go back with my thumbnail. Look at this. Did I need primer on that kit? No, I didn't need primer on that kit. Guys, I'm here to tell you, anyone can build anything. And if this shoulder ever dries, we'll do some hand painting on it. Zenkistyle out.